Now, my goal today is to share some information with you that will revolutionize your training, that will make your training so effective and so worthwhile. And it's talking about the tools that we use for our training and why we use them. So we always have this comparison between the human body and an engine. You know, you want to build your engine, you want to make it more efficient, you want to make it more powerful, you want to, you know, give it more whatever. And it's quite a good analogy because, you know, when you're trying to explain a concept to somebody, you can use that engine analogy to bring your point across. But obviously the analogy will break down at some point. But basically what we want to discuss today is this: how can we make our engine more efficient? And how can we make our engine more powerful? Those are the things that we need in order to perform in our sport. We need to be efficient and we need to be powerful. So when we're looking at efficiency, you know, people often talk about aerobic efficiency. You need to be using heart rate. You need to be keeping the heart rate low. You keep it in zone 2. You need to run easy. You need to be at a conversational pace. And that's true, but it's a half-truth. And it's a half-truth because, let's go back to the car analogy. If you want to be an 1100 engine, but you're the most efficient 1100 engine in the world, you're still going to be a very slow engine that can just last very long. So, and that's the exact point that I want to make. You know, Mark Allen, one of the legends of Ironman triathlon, Mark Allen basically pioneered the heart rate monitor. And to give you some background, Mark Allen was an athlete who used to go flat out from, you know, all his training sessions. He used to push himself as hard as he could. He came from a swimming background where he was used to pushing it in the pool, as swimmers do, and you know that carried through into his triathlon. So, you know, it came to a point where he started to break down because obviously his training was too stressful and he wasn't reaping the benefits anymore. And so he met a kinesiologist by the name of Phil Maffetone, and Phil Maffetone said to him, listen, you need to do low heart rate training. And this totally revolutionized Mark Allen's training. I mean, he only after that did he really reach the heights of what he was capable of, because he was able to find that missing ingredient that he needed in order to complete his weaponry. And so when we look at that, you know, people look at Mark Allen and they go, well, it worked for Mark Allen, it should work for me. But the question is this: what do you lack? Do you lack efficiency or do you lack power and speed? You see, because Mark Allen, he had power, he had speed. Now, if you're going to go heart rate training like Mark Allen did, you better make sure that you've got the power and speed if you want to make use of the low heart rate training. Now, some people might say, yeah, but you know what? The heart rate training is so effective because it measures the whole body stress. And that's true. And that's why I'm saying that heart rate training has its place, but we've put it right at the top of the pile where it shouldn't actually be there. Heart rate training has got a very valuable function, and we need to keep its function where it's needed. The heart rate monitor is best used in two instances. The first is when you want to control the overall body stress. So in other words, when you want to do aerobic, easy training to increase your overall training volume, you use heart rate monitor because you can limit the intensity of your training and you can make sure that your body is not producing excess lactate, and your body is then going to be able to recover. And it's very useful in using a heart rate monitor when you are in the days following a hard training session where you want to keep the intensity low. The point is that when we want to train specifically and accurately, what we need is to have the right tools for the right job. And so when you think about a heart rate monitor monitors your heart, and your heart is a responder. It's an organ that responds to the needs of the body. Now, if you've just had a meal, your heart rate's going to rise. If you go and sit in the sauna, your heart rate's going to rise. And that's why when people say my threshold heart rate is at 150, I have to shake my head, because if you had to be sitting in a sauna and your heart rate hit 150, you certainly wouldn't be over lactate threshold. your body wouldn't be producing lactate. Lactate is produced in the muscles. So, if you want to pinpoint your intensity, you've got to use a different tool to heart rate. And again, if you want to do specific workouts, very, very hard to do them using a heart rate monitor. Very hard. How do you run 100-meter intervals, or how do you swim 50-meter intervals using a heart rate monitor? It's very difficult. So what do we use then if we can't use a heart rate monitor? Well, the best measure of performance is performance. But now we step into another problem, because over the years people have used 5K time trial, 20-minute bike interval, power, those kind of things as their measurement of performance. But if you took a 5K time trial and you had two athletes, one was a 13-year-old girl and one was a 25-year-old man, you most certainly wouldn't be giving them the same training, because most likely the young girl would be very fit and very fatigue resistant, whereas the man might be pretty average, but he would definitely be quicker over a shorter distance. So their whole profile looks very different. And so it's important that if you want to get your training specific and very, very accurate, it's important that you have what we call a performance duration curve. Now, a performance duration curve is something that pinpoints your max performance at every duration or time interval. So what is your 30-second max? What is your 1 minute max? What is your 4 minute max? 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, all the way up through to 1 hour. Now, of course, we can't be measuring those max efforts every week or every month even, because it's too stressful. But what we've decided to do is we've decided to use a multiple data point. We use 2 tests, and from that we generate a curve that represents a very accurate representation of your performance duration curve. And so using that as your intensity is by far the best way to do your intense sessions. Now, on NPG, what we do is we from those 2 performance tests, we create your performance duration curve, and we actually give you specific paces for every single distance. So your 100-meter pace, what should your 100-meter pace be? What should your 200-meter pace? 300, 400, 500, 600, all the way up through to 20 minutes, half an hour. And these performance duration curves have been plotted and calculated over thousands of athletes, and so we've really crunched the numbers, and we've come up with an algorithm that really represents everybody. So it doesn't matter if you're fast or slow. Using those 2 data points, we know that your fatigue resistance and your power, basically the 2 components we spoke about earlier, your efficiency and your power, or your speed, those are the 2 things that we can pinpoint, because we've chosen 2 very specific points to measure, and from those 2 points we can very accurately represent the points in between and the points after, based on where that curve has come from and where it's going on both sides. And having tweaked that algorithm for the last 8 years or so, we've come to a point where that algorithm is so spot on. And so all you need to do is you need to do those 2 performance tests. You record your performance numbers, you record your max heart rate that you recorded during that test, and then basically follow the program that the system will generate for you. Now, the system will generate a program that's based on your strengths and weaknesses. So it calculates basically where you're strong and where you're weak, and it targets those weak points so that you improve and your curve moves in the direction of becoming a very strong curve.